Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 5 in my How to Make a Piggy Game in Roblox series. Now we're getting closer and closer to finishing this series, but today what we need to do, we need to add the logic in the for loop in our start round to detect when the players escape, because currently if you escape it won't end the round. So that's what we'll do today. We're also going to be working on crouching and traps as well. So very important parts of the game, which are crucial to how Piggy works, because we're balancing it out. We're giving the Piggy a little bit of power in that they can place traps, but we're also allowing the players to crouch. So if they get in a sticky situation and they're trapped somewhere, then they can crouch down and get out one of those holes in the floor so that they can escape from the Piggy. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people saying that their game looks quite dark and if there's any way to turn up the brightness. And there is. If you go into lighting, click on the lighting service, and in the properties window you'll see this ambient property. Now if you turn this up, it makes the game lighter. I wouldn't turn it up to the max amount, so you just drag this slider, but drag it and see what's best for your game. You can also edit the light bricks. You can add your own bricks and put spotlights in them, or surface lights, like I've done in the lobby and also in the main map. You'll see that if we have a look, okay, no, it's in the intro tunnel actually. I've put a light part with a surface light, and that can make parts of the game brighter or darker. So let's get straight into the code to end the round if people escape. So in the round module script, we are going to go down here, and in the last video we inserted the escaped value into the player when they exited the final door. If we have a look for that, you will see in the door module it's already there, but it inserts this value called escaped when you touch the exit door, which is unlocked with the white key. So when you do touch it, if you're a contestant and you've not already escaped, you've not already got one of these values in your player, we're going to insert that escaped value. It's a bool value, so it's going to be true or false, but that doesn't matter. It's just like one of those tags which we insert so that we can detect if you've got it. And if you've got the escaped tag in your player, we'll know that you've escaped. And then that way, in the round module, all we need to do is every second just loop through all of the players, and then if they have a escaped value, then we can just have a variable and increase that for every single player that has it, and that will tell us the amount of players that have escaped. So let's create a variable and call it escapees. I'm going to set this to 0. It's going to be 0 every single time it loops around at the start, but then when we loop through every player in the game, we're going to have another if statement here, and we'll just say if player, and by the way, we are not, never mind. Yeah, so we'll say if player find first child escapes. So if they've got that escaped value inside of them, then we know that they've obviously hit the door, the final door, and it's given them that value. Then we're going to increase that escapees variable by 1. So escapees equals escapees plus 1. So if there's 5 people in the game with this tag, then it's going to start off at 0, it's going to loop through every player in the game, and it's going to update this escapees variable by adding 1 to it. And it's going to do that 5 times. So at the end of the for loop, we will know that there are 5 escapees because the escapees variable will be set to 5. So now we need to do a if statement outside of it, just like we've done with the others, for if the Piggy is alive or not, if they've left, if the Piggy killed everyone, and if the time's up. So we'll say if escapees is greater than 0. So if more than one person's escaped, if one person or more has escaped, if that escapees value is greater than 0, then we're going to set the outcome variable to be escapes, and so we can check in a minute to see if the outcome is escaped, and if it is, we can set the status value. But then we want to break out of the for loop here, the outer for loop, which is counting down from 10 minutes, because everyone's escaped. So we need to end the round. Then down here, we can just add another else if. We can say else if status.value equals escaped. Oh, double equals needed there because it's an if statement. Then status.value equals contestants have escaped, Piggy loses. Okay, so when the first person escapes and gets out, we will just end the round. Okay, now you could change this to end the round only when all the contestants are out, but if you've got someone who's AFK, for example, then they're probably not going to escape and the piggy's going to have to catch them. So it just ends the round when the first person's escaped, because everyone's going to be working in a team, and when the first person escapes, everyone else is probably going to be around them escaping at the same time. So I'm just ending the round when the first person, or it could be everybody escapes at once, but as soon as that first person has been registered and there's one escapee, it's going to end the round. So of course there'll be a 5-second wait as well, so everybody else who still hasn't escaped has 5 seconds to head to the exit and get out before the round ends. So now if we go in to the game and try it out, we should be able to escape and end the round. So I'm going to start up the game, and I'm going to cut this part out, so I'm going to skip to when I'm about to escape. In fact, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you this as well, if you want to save time and allow your player to escape really quickly if you're just testing, you can go into the server window if you're in the test mode, open up the server window, and then head over to the map. I'm going to use the select tool. I'm going to press Alt to select each individual wooden block. I'm just going to delete it because that's what the hammer would do. Then I'm going to Alt-click on the generator, and I'm going to set the on value to be true. I'll change the colour of the display as well, because that's usually what would happen. And then I need to get the white key. So I'm going to basically Alt-click on this purple door, which is the door to the downstairs area, which is where the white key is. I'm just going to move it away. I'm going to drag it somewhere else. I don't know where it's gone. I've just dragged it out of the way. So now, and you have to do that on the server, by the way, so that everybody in the game can see it, both the piggy and me. I'm going to go down here. That was just a shortcut to save us from having to complete the game, basically, to get the final key. So I'm going to pick up the final key, and we're going to head over. I know it's very dark down here, you can't really see, and that's why you need to increase the ambience, or maybe add a surface light. I'll probably do that later on. And I'm going to go back up here, and now, if we open up the server again, and we go into the player's service, and it's player 1, you can see we don't currently have an escaped value. But if we just move that over there we go. Watch carefully as I unlock the door. Okay, it's added the escaped value, and there we go, it's ended the round. Okay, I'll show you again. I've opened up the server, I'm going to pick up the white key, I'm going to head out, and it says you escaped, and then it ends the round. Oh, and I just realised I made a mistake. I said status.value instead of outcome. I should have said else if outcome equals escaped, then it will print out, it will set the status to say contestants have escaped. That's why it didn't write that when we escaped. So let's try once more. And I've also just taken the status.value equals 2MSI, and I've put it above the above any of these if statements here, because it will update the status to the current time before it breaks the for loop, because if it had broken, it wouldn't have updated the status timer to the latest time. So I've moved it from the bottom down here, just up here, but I've not moved the weight. So keep the weight down here, but I've put the status just after the for loop and before the if statements, but it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is that you've made sure that you said outcome equals escapes, just as you have with the others. So let's go test that out again. So we go over here, we pick up the key, which I've just brought up from downstairs in the server, and I'm going to unlock the door, and it says contestants have escaped, Piggy loses, and then the next round's going to start. Brilliant. Yeah. So what we now need to do, because if we just pause the game here, we open up the Explorer and we go in here, you'll still see I've got the escaped value. So we need to delete that in our cleanup function where we clean up the round ready for the next one. So if we go into the remove tags area, what we can do is we can just do a very, very simple in the else if v is a contestant, because we don't want to do this for the piggy because it's only the contestants that can escape. So we're going to say, well, you can do it outside if you want, I guess. It doesn't really matter. So you can say if v find first child, because if the piggy doesn't have it, then it won't matter. Escaped, then v.escaped destroy. So if the player has the escaped value, then we're going to delete it. And then that way, they'll have to escape again in the next round for them to get it. Because if we kept it in, it would start being counted from the start of the next round when you haven't escaped. So that's very important there. And if you do try it again, you'll see that the escaped value gets deleted. So you can see if we pick up the key, unlock the door, you'll see that player 2 has the escaped value. But then as the round ends and the remove tags function fires, it gets destroyed, as does the contestant's value. Alright, next we're going to work on the crouching. A lot of people have been wanting to know how to do this. I'm going to show you. And just as with the Piggy Bat, I can't share my animations with you because Roblox just prevents you from sharing animations at the minute. So I'm going to teach you how you can make your own Piggy crouch animation. It's very, very simple, but the majority of the work has already been done. The crouching script was in the Piggy Kit. So if you go into Starter GUI, click on Main GUI, and it's inside this Anim's local script, which is where obviously it won't work at the minute, but if you had an animation in here, which you own, it would work straight away. So I'm just going to walk you through the code. So firstly, we've got this function, which we're going to call, and it firstly checks to see if you're a contestant, because we only want the contestants to be able to crouch. And if you are a contestant, then we've got this variable called animPlaying, which tells us whether the animation is currently playing or not. Because if it is currently playing, which is handled in this else statement, then we want to stop the animation. But if it's not currently playing, we want to start it. So to start the animation, we create an animation object, we load in the animation ID, which we've put in this variable up here. And so if you want to put your own animation in, you just change the ID here, but keep the RBX asset ID part. And then you play the animation, because you load it into the character's humanoid, and then you play it. And then I'm slowing the player down, so I'm setting the player's character, the humanoid, in the humanoid, setting their walk speed property. Walk speed has capital S to 10, so it slows them down. I update the variable so that it then, when we call the crouch function again, the animPlaying will be true, so it will do the opposite of what it currently is doing, so it'll either stop or play it. And then I'm setting there's a GUI which will appear called crouch inside the main GUI here. If I just make it visible, you can see. And when you press the crouch button, or you start crouching, it will change the color to be blue of the text and the image button. And it will just print out that it's playing. When you want to stop the animation, it will print that it's going to stop. Then it's going to loop through all of the, well, it's going to call a function on your humanoid called getPlayingAnimationTracks. This is built into Roblox, and it will return back a table of all of the animations that are currently playing. And so we can loop through them in this for loop and stop every animation that's currently playing, so that it basically stops your crouch. Then, and if you don't want to, if you have other animations that you don't want to stop, you could have an if statement here to check the name of the animation and only stop a certain one. But this will stop all animations. We don't have any other animations in the game currently for the contestants, except for the Piggy Bat, but that's for the piggy, so it doesn't matter. We're then setting the walk speed back to the default of 16. So if you increase your walk speed, your default walk speed, make sure that you change it here as well, because 16 is the current default. Then we set the animPlaying variable to false, so that when we press crouch again, it will do the opposite, and we're just reverting the image button and the text label's color back to white. So it looks on the GUI that it's not enabled. Then down here, we're using the user input service, which is detecting user input, so like when you press a key. So when you have started an input, so it could be a mouse click or something. We are detecting if you press the left control button. If you want to change the button that starts your crouch, you could do enum.keycode, and then if you wanted it to be the A key, you just write A. If you wanted it to be shift, you'd say left shift, I think. Yeah, left shift. So I'm going to leave it at left control. And enum is like a list of options that we can choose, because enum.keycode will only take a certain number of inputs. It could be any key on your keyboard, so we just look them up using an enum. And then when you have pressed the correct input, we're calling the crouch function, which is up here. So it will either start or stop your crouching. And then if you're on mobile, to make it work, we're also hooking it up to a mouse button one click event on the crouch button, so that you can click the button I just showed you to enable or disable your crouching. And then down here we have some code for a remote event, which we're going to add into replicated storage. So go into replicated storage, add another remote event, and make sure that you call it toggle crouch. Now what this is going to do is, in the server at certain times, so for example at the end of the round, we want to disable the crouching if you're in the lobby. So also, if you're the piggy, we want to turn off your ability to crouch or to show the GUI. So we can fire the toggle crouch event from the server, and we can have an argument which will be whether it's going to be turned visible or invisible, so true or false. And then when that is fired from the server, we can set the visibility of the crouch button to either be true or false. We will stop playing the animations, and we will set everybody's walk speed back to 16. So this remote event is going to be used to turn off the crouching for people at certain times, so when the round ends. So we fire it from the server, and then all clients are going to pick it up with this event, and it's going to it's going to make the crouch GUI invisible, it's going to stop the current animation, it's going to reset anim playing to false, so that you're not crouching anymore. And we will set that in a server script. So let's just go into the server scripts where we want to disable the crouching, and we can fire this toggle crouch event. So if you think about it, if somebody has just played around, we want to hide the crouching GUI when you hit the lobby again, when the round's over. So what we can do is, in the remove tags function, which will just clean up after a round's finished, in this for loop, looping through all the players in the game, we can say game.replicatorstorage.toggleCrouch, and in fact what we'll do is we'll put this outside of the for loop here, because we only need it to run once, because we're going to fire it for all clients like this. So for every player in the game, we're going to fire this remote event. And that way, when we use fire all clients, we don't need to specify the player who we're going to fire this event for, because it's going to fire for every player in the game. And we want to toggle it to be false. So we're sending the false argument, so that when we pick it up in this script, we've got the visibility. So we can set the crouch GUI's visibility to be false. Even though this is disabling the animations anyway, I guess we could just say false here, and that would do it anyway. But so I'm going to remove that visibility argument, because this is just disabling the crouch anyway, so it's not like we're going to use it to turn it on. In fact, that's not true, because we're going to want to actually enable the GUI again. So I'm going to keep this visibility. I'm going to keep that because we might want to turn it on or off. So it might be true or it might be false at times, because we will want to, when the round starts, we're going to want to enable it again for all the players that aren't the piggy. So if we go back to the round module, so we've done that, and that will disable it for everyone. But then if we go into our game logic script and go, let's think about this. So when the piggy has been chosen and we're removing the piggy from the table, if they are the chosen piggy, let's do an else. So if the else statement runs, we know that the contestant that we're currently looping through is not going to be the piggy. So we want to toggle the crouch GUI to show up. So we can say game.replicated storage.toggle crouch :fire client, and then we're not doing fire all clients because that would fire it for the Piggy as well. So we're firing for each individual contestant, but we're looping through them at the same time. So it's going to happen for all contestants. We're then going to pass the argument true, so that when we go down into the anim script and this gets picked up, it's going to enable the crouch GUI. It's going to disable your animations that are currently playing though, and set the anim playing to false, so that it's just appeared, and from then on you can start pressing crouch and clicking the button and start playing your animation. So it's just enabled the crouch GUI. Then we need to enable the GUI one more time for those that join halfway through the round. So if we go into the event handling script and we go down into this menu play event, this is going to be when people join halfway through when they've pressed play on the menu. So what we can do is we can say game.replicated storage.toggle crouch :fire clients. Again, not fire all clients. We're sending the specific player that we want to enable the GUI for, which is going to be player because it's the player that clicked the button and get passed to this on server event. And then we're going to say true because we want it to appear. So now when the game starts, we should be seeing that crouch GUI appear. Let's wait and see. There we go. It's appearing for the player on the right because they are a contestant, but the player on the left is the Piggy, so obviously it's not going to appear. Now next, we need to make this crouching animation. Now because I've already made one, but I can't share it with you, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so we're going to make this. I'm going to teach you how to make it so you can make it for yourself in the animation editor. It's very simple, and I know my crouch animation doesn't look the best. That's because I spent about 5 minutes on it. Because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to share it with you. So I'm not going to make a very detailed one because it's you that's going to be making the animation in the end. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to open up the animation editor. But before we do that, we're going to insert a rig. So click on build rig, then click on R15, block rig. Now I'm not going to do a R6 animation because I'm going to set this game to be R15 only. If you wanted to do an R6 one, you could, but I'm just going to set the game to R15. It makes it a lot simpler. So then go into animation editor, click on your dummy, then you can name the animation. I'm going to call it crouch. I'm going to click on create, and what we need to do is don't move the blue line. Okay, don't move the scrubber. First thing we're going to do, click on the 3 dots, very important, then click on set animation priority and click action. If your crouch animation isn't working for you, it's most likely because you've forgotten to set the animation priority, and it's not being played because the Roblox movement scripts when you walk and you're idle are being played, are being prioritized and played over it, so it's not playing at all. So set the animation priority to action. Then, again, don't move the scrubber, but we're going to position this rig into a crouching position. So to do this, well, imagine that this grid is the floor. So we're going to firstly click on their lower torso. So this small torso here, okay, you have to click on this one. If you click on the upper torso and try and move the player, all their body parts are going to get skewed off and not going to work. So click on the lower torso here, okay? Then go into home, select the move tool, and drag him down, okay, to about here, so that his torso, in fact, I'm just going to do it around here, so that, say, a quarter of his leg is above the ground. Then I'm going to take his right leg, I'm going to use the rotate tool, and I'm going to rotate it vertically. Okay, so it looks like he's bending his leg, sorry. Then I'm going to take the next part of his leg and bend it up a bit. Okay, right, then I'm going to take the next leg, I'm going to click on the upper part of it, I'm going to drag it, rotate it forward like this. I'm going to take the second part of his leg and drag it down a bit. Okay, so not the best crouch animation, but guess what? It works. If you want to animate the arms, you can do so as well. So you could maybe drag them into the middle like this. I know in the actual Piggy game, the animation animates their arms, so I'm just going to show you how to do that as well. And again, my animation skills aren't very good. I'm mainly a scripter, so, you know, bear with me a bit here. So when you've finished your animation, again, we're not moving the scrubber along because we want it to be playing this infinitely, this same pose. Let's check this one out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the lower torso off the ground a little bit more, like this, just so that we can get the player's legs in like this. And I'm going to rotate the leg up a little bit more. If you don't want it to snap when you rotate, click on Model and uncheck the Rotate in the Snap to Grid section. That way you'll just have free control over your legs. I'm going to bend this one a little bit more, like this. Okay, now if we play the animation, firstly I'm going to click on this button here so that it loops. And if you just play it, it's going to constantly loop. We've only got one pose, so the player is always going to look like this. So now what we can do is we can export this animation. So click on the three dots, click on Export, and then click Create New. Give it a name. I'm going to call it Crouch. Click on Finish. And the same as we did with the Piggy Bat, select just the ID, right click, copy. If you don't see this box, just go to the Roblox page website, go to Create, and then in the side section you should see animations, and you can find a link to your animation. Right? Then close down the animation editor, head back to your anim script, and take the animation ID variable and replace the numbers here with your animation ID. Keep this RBX asset ID part, because that tells the script to look up on the Roblox site for this animation ID. Right, now we're good to test it out. So we're going to go into a server again and see what happens. Now it might be that it's probably likely that we're going to have to change this animation because it might not look right, but that's fine. I'll show you how we can change it. Alright, so here we go, round's about to start. Okay, the GUI hasn't shown up. We'll investigate that in a minute, but if we press Control, the script should still be working. So there we go, we are crouching, and you can see that we're now, it's working pretty good. I'm liking this animation, and now we can slip through these little holes, whereas we couldn't before. So if the piggy was chasing you and you wanted to make a quick escape, you could just crouch down, and boom, you're out. So really, really nice, I like that. So I'm going to record myself debugging this animation GUI to see what's happening. Okay, it's appeared now for some reason. Okay, so that's very weird because I've been testing it a lot of times and it's been showing up the crouch GUI. So that one time where it didn't show up was quite interesting because it obviously worked, but then for some reason that time when we first tested the animation it didn't, which is very interesting. But I'll just reset and you'll see that the crouch GUI is still there, but oh, never mind, it's gone now because we fired that toggle crouch. Because obviously we died and then we respawned and then it loaded everybody again when the round had ended. And let's just see again. Yeah, it seems to be working for me, so I don't think there's any issues there. That might have just been a one-off. But the good thing is that we have our animation in there now and it is working really well. So we don't need to go back in and edit it. But if you do want to change your animation a bit, it's very simple. Head back into the animation editor like this and it might have loaded itself. But if it hasn't, then click on the three dots, import from Roblox, and then select the crouch animation that you just saved. And then to save yourself from having to put the animation ID in again, when you are wanting to export it again, just overwrite the one you just made. But really important is that you click the three dots, set animation priority, and click action, else it's not going to work. I can't stress that enough. Okay, so that is the crouching done. So if you're still having problems, make sure that you've added the remote event and that you've been following along carefully. and also that you've done your animation yourself, because it's not going to work unless you've made your own animation and put it into the anims script. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to do the traps. So we've done the crouching. We now need to make the traps for the piggy. Now I'm just going to say delete this dummy when you finish with it. We no longer need it. That was only used for the animation. So I'm going to show you now how you can make the traps work. So alongside the main GUI in the Piggy Kit, I also gave you a GUI called Trap GUI. Now if we make this GUI enabled, click on it and set the enabled property to be true, you'll see that it appears and it shows a bear trap with the amount of traps you have left, and also a instruction, so that you press the control button, or you tap on the button, click it to place a trap. So inside of here there's a local script, and it's very similar actually to the animations in that there's a function called trap, and when called it detects to see if you're the piggy, if you've got that value inside that tells us you're the piggy. We've also got a debounce, and a debounce allows you to have a cooldown, so you can only use the trap once every 5 seconds. And the way that works is that we have a variable, we set it to false to begin with, and we'll only let you place a trap if that variable is false. And so not debounce is the same as saying if debounce is false. So if it is false, we're going to set it to true, so that if you keep pressing trap, because the debounce variable is now set to true, this is not going to pass. So it's not going to let you place any more traps until the debounce becomes false. So after 5 seconds, we're going to set debounce to be false, and then once the debounce has first been set, the text label inside the trap button, which looks like this control/tap, will change its text to say wait, and then we will fire a remote event to the server, which is going to place that trap. And we're also going to script a value into the player called trap count. We haven't made that yet, but we will do it very soon. And that is going to track how many traps the piggy has left to use. And every time they place a trap, we'll update the red, let's have a look, the red text, which says 5, to be the amount of traps you have left, the value of that trap count. And then after 5 seconds, we set the debounce to false, and we set the text label of the trap that says control back to its original value, which was saying wait before. And then we're using the user input service again to see if you've pressed the left control, and if you have, then we'll call the trap function. And if you've clicked it, maybe you might be on a mobile, you've tapped it or clicked it, it will also call the trap function. And also we have another remote event called toggle trap. This is very similar to toggle crouch in that it will make the trap GUI show up or go off screen. It will make it visible or invisible, but instead it sets its enabled property instead of the visible property of the trap button, which you could set, but I've just chosen to use enabled. So we're going to need 2 more remote events to begin with, and we're going to have one for the toggle trap. So insert a remote event and set it to toggle trap like that. And one more, which is going to be called place trap. So we're going to fire the place trap when we want to lay down a trap in the piggy's current location, and then we're going to have another one which will make the trap GUI appear on the screen, or make it go off the screen when the round is finished or when the piggy has been selected. So firstly, let's make this trap GUI show up. So very simple. So let's go into the round module, and we're going to go to the function where we teleport the piggy. Teleport piggy. Where is it? Here we go. Teleport piggy. So inside of here, we're firstly going to create that value inside of the piggy called trap count. Okay, very simple, and this is what's going to look like. Just to speed up the video, by now you should know how to insert values. So we're creating a variable called trap count. We're instancing in a int value, changing its name to be trap count. Then we're setting its value to be 5. That's the amount of traps the piggy can place Of course, you can change this to a bigger number, such as 10. I recommend you keep it at 5 because it keeps the game balanced. And then we're going to say trap count.parent equals player. So it puts it in the Piggy, in their player. So only the Piggy is going to have this value. That's why we've put it into teleport Piggy. And then we're going to want to make that GUI appear. So we're going to say game.replicated storage.toggletrap, fire client. Not fire all clients, we're going to use fire client because we only want to fire it for the Piggy. So we're going to put the player in, the player argument that it's going to fire for, which is going to be the Piggy, which we passed to this function. And then we're going to set the second argument to be true because we want to make that GUI appear. And later on, when we want to make it invisible or disabled, we will just call this remote event again, specifying the Piggy, and also having the second argument to be false, so that the script knows to set the enabled property of the trap GUI to be false. So, next, we need to do just that. So we're going to scroll down a bit to the remove tags function, and inside of here, inside of the if v find first child Piggy, when we're looping through all the players in the game, when we've found the Piggy, what we're going to do is we're going to, firstly, just underneath the part where it deletes your tools and the Piggy bat, we're going to see if you have that trap count value. So if v find first child trap count, then v dot trap count destroy. Okay, it's going to delete that trap count value out of your player because we no longer need it. And if you've just been the Piggy and the next round you're going to be a contestant, even if you are the Piggy next round again, it's going to insert another trap count into your player. So we need to delete it at the end of the round. Especially though, if you're going to be a contestant next round, we don't want you to have a trap count value in your player. So after that, we're then going to fire that remote event again to disable the trap GUI on the Piggy screen. Because if they're no longer the Piggy, we don't want them to be able to see that trap GUI. Because if they're a contestant next round, they're going to get the toggle crouch. They're going to get the crouch GUI, which are going to be in the same position. So we're going to say game.replicated storage once again, .toggletrap, fire client. We need to pass the Piggy, the current player that we're looping through, whose GUI we're going to disable, and that's going to be v, because v represents the current player that we're looping through in this table, and that table is game.players, get players up here. So the current player that we're looping through is going to be v. We know that they're the Piggy because we've done this if statement to check if they are. Then we're going to say comma, and we're going to say false, because we want to disable the trap GUI. Now in theory, if you are chosen to be the Piggy, then after you die, then the GUI should hide itself because it's got a reset on spawn property set to true. So it will reset to how it first looked when the GUI was inserted into your player. And the trap button is going to be invisible at that point because the GUI is disabled. But just as a good practice to make sure that actually did happen, we can use this toggle trap remote event to make sure that it is disabled and set to false, which is useful if you don't kill the Piggy. For example, if you just teleport them back after the end of the round. So now if we test the game out, you'll see that when the round begins, the Piggy should see their trap GUI. And there we go, they do see it. And for some reason, the toggle crouch still is not working, so we will investigate that a bit more. But before we do that, we are going to make it so that the Piggy is able to place their traps, because currently they will be able to press control and it will say wait, but they won't be able to actually place them, and that's because we've got to do the coding on the server. We've got to pick up that remote event called place trap when it gets fired, and we're going to place a trap in the Piggy's current location. We're going to do that on the server though. So let's go into the event handling script and let's just create another event called game.replicatedStorage.placeTrap.onServerEvent. So when it's fired to the server, connect function player, just like that. And then we need to firstly make sure that the person that's calling this remote event is the Piggy, because it could be somebody that, you know, tries to exploit, and is actually a contestant. So we can say if player find first child Piggy. So if they've got that Piggy value, then we'll make sure that they've got a trap count value. If player find first child trap count, then we need to have a debounce, don't we? We need to have a debounce, just like we had a debounce for the what do we have the debounce for? The debounce was for, let's have a look. Yes, so we had a debounce for the stun script and the bat script as well. But yeah, the debounce will stop the Piggy from being able to lay down 5 traps at once by spamming the crouch button. So local trap debounce equals false. This is only going to be used in this place trap event. So we need to say if not trap debounce, then. So if the trap debounce is false, which means that they can place a trap, we need to set it to be true, so they can no longer place a trap after that. For 5 seconds. So we'll wait 5 seconds and then we'll set trap debounce back to false. So that for 5 seconds you won't be able to place any more traps before it then unlocks again. After the 5 seconds we'll unlock the debounce by setting the variable back to false, because we allow the for loop to pass if the condition is that the trap debounce is false. So when it's true, it's not going to run. So in here, we need to then check to see if the player has enough traps left, because they could have used up all of their traps. So if player.trapCount.value is greater than 0, then if they have got enough traps, a number greater than 0, so 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1, but if they have 0 traps, well, it's not going to pass, because 0 is, our condition is that the amount of traps that you have has to be greater than 0. And so then we need to put the bear trap in the map. But we firstly have to check to see if the map is there. So we say if game.workspace find first child map. This is just for some extra security and safety, so that the script won't error if the map isn't there for some reason. No reason why it shouldn't be, but you know. Then we're going to say player.trap count. We're going to subtract 1 from their current trap count, because when they've placed a trap, we need to remove 1 from their trap count value. So player.trapCount.value equals, and then we'll just say player.trapCount.value, because that's their current value, minus 1. So it takes 1 away from the current value. So if they had 5, it would be 5 minus 1. So it would then turn into 4. Right, now we need to actually place the bear trap. So in the Piggy Kit, I gave you a mesh of a bear trap. I'm just going to drag it into Workspace to show you. Here we are, nice bear trap, very nice. You can resize it if you want, doesn't really matter. So I'm going to take this bear trap. In fact, it kind of does matter. If you resize it on the y-axis, you make it bigger like this, then it's going to interfere in a minute with the placement, and I'll explain more. So I'm going to put it back into server storage. That was just to show you. Go back into event handling. We're going to clone this bear trap. So local trap equals game.serverstorage.bear_trap clone, because it's got an underscore in the name. Then we're going to set the C frame of the trap. So C frame again is like the position, but with rotation as well. So C frame is just a better way, in my opinion, of placing these type of things. So we're going to set the trap's C frame to be the C frame of the player's humanoid root part. Now the humanoid root part is a invisible part in the middle of the player's character. So positioning it there will be able to put it where the player is standing, right, in terms of X and Y, because it will be in the middle of the player's character. Sorry, X and Z. The Y value, it will be off the ground in the middle of the player's character. So we'll need to offset it a bit to put it down on the ground. So we're going to say player.character humanoid root part .cframe minus, and this is how we offset it, so it's currently going to be in the middle of the piggy's body, so like about level with their bat or their arm. So we need to subtract a number of studs from this C-frame value to put it down on the ground. And so if you've increased the size of your trap, you're going to need to change this number, the amount of studs that it's going to be offset by, so that it is it looks like it's on the floor. So we're going to say minus vector3.new. So vector3 value is just made up of 3 values, an x, y, and z value, and they are the amount of studs that it's going to move on each axis. So we can leave the x and y values 0, sorry, the x and z value 0, but we're going to set the y value to be 3.5. So it's going to subtract 3.5 studs vertically from the C-frame of the trap. So it's going to move it down by 3.5 studs. If you wanted to move it up, you would change this to a plus, but it's a minus because we want to subtract to move it down. So now that we've placed the trap, and again, change this if you want. If you don't change your piggy character as well, this should work fine, but if you use a different piggy character, which might be a different size, you'll probably need to change this value to 3.5. So play around with it, although it currently works well for me. Right. Next, we need to parent this trap. So I'm going to put it in the map. So trap.parent equals game.workspace find first child map. So that will put it in the map, and that should be good. Now, then you might be wondering, how do we kill the player when they step on it? Well, I've put a script in there. It's called fall damage. I don't know why. I think it's because I copied a script and forgot to rename it. So I'm going to rename it to be death script, although it doesn't really matter. But in this bear trap, again in the Piggy Kit, it came with it. There's a touched event. So when something touches the bear trap, it's going to get their player from their character. The character is going to be the parent of the hit. The hit is the argument that took the part that touched the bear trap, or the thing, the body part. So if it is a player and they're not the piggy, it is going to set their walk speed to be 0 for 5 seconds, and then it's going to set their walk speed back to 16. So you're going to be stuck for 5 seconds, and after the 5 seconds, it's going to destroy the trap. So multiple people could get stuck in this trap. But I don't think that's a good idea for a few reasons, because let's think about it. If somebody first steps on the bear trap, and then 2 seconds later, someone else steps on it, well, after the bear trap gets destroyed, after the first 5 seconds for the first person, the trap's going to get removed, so it's going to stop this script. So there won't be the second player that steps on it, because the script gets destroyed, he will be stuck forever. So we're going to have a debounce. So I'm going to make another debounce. So local debounce equals false. And I'm going to say if player, then if not debounce, then debounce equals true. Going to do this, put this inside of here, and then take this code. Now, this might look a bit confusing, but bear with me. Just thought about this whilst I was recording, so. Cool. So I've added the debounce in here, and there's no point in setting the debounce value to become false again, because we're going to delete the bear trap and it will stop the script. But what it will do is it will only allow one player to get stuck. So when you activate the trap, nobody else can get stuck in it, because it will get destroyed after 5 seconds anyway. And this will prevent players from getting stuck forever if they step on a trap that somebody else has stepped in. So because after 5 seconds, it's going to destroy the script, if somebody else has stepped on it halfway through that 5 seconds, the script's going to be destroyed before their 5 seconds are up, so they're going to get infinitely stuck. So you only want the first player that touches the bear trap to get stuck, and this should do it. Okay, let's go give it a try. Okay, we've still got that toggle crouch GUI issue to work out as well. But if we wait for the game to load. You can see the piggy has their bear trap has loaded up, and if they wanted to, they could press Control, and it's going to place a trap. So I'm going to wait until he gets spawned in, so we can get the player on the left caught in the trap, which should be in 2 seconds. Here we go. So I'm going to place a trap over here. And I'm going to place another one. Do you see how the number here went down as I placed one? Here we go. And we'll place another one up here. And if I go and stand in one of these... Ooh. Interesting. The trap hasn't showed up. Oh, hold on. Let's just have a look at this. Interesting. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a debug now. We're going to try and debug this. So let's just give the piggy some more traps. It's not going to update on their GUI, but if they place a trap, then it destroys itself after 5 seconds. I think I know what we've done here. So what I think I've done is, let's look at this. So yeah, my mistake. So even if the piggy touches it, we're already starting this debounce. So because this if statement comes after the debounce if statement, if the piggy steps on the trap, it's going to start the debounce, and it's going to wait 5 seconds. Even if they are the piggy, it doesn't matter, because this wait 5 seconds isn't in the if statement when it should be, and this should be in it as well. So it's going to just destroy it after anybody touches it. So when the piggy touches it, which we don't want. So let's take this debounce and put it inside of this if statement. And then we'll take this code here and we'll put it in here as well. So it's kind of hard to get your head around debounce, so don't worry if you're finding it a little bit hard to understand. Let's just sort this out. Okay, we've got an indent of 1 extra indent, which we didn't need. Okay, this should work now. So the debounce will only trigger if the player is not the piggy. So when somebody who is not the piggy steps on the bear trap, then we're going to see if the debounce is false, and if it is, we're going to set it to true, so nobody else can step on the bear trap. Then we're going to make the character stand still for 5 seconds, and then it's going to wait 5 seconds, and then it's going to delete the script. We don't need to set the debounce to false, because the script's going to get deleted anyway, because only one player is going to be using this trap. Let's try it once more. So there you go, little example of me debugging my own code there. So you need to learn how to debug as well, so that when you face these type of problems, you can fix them yourself. And as you do more coding, as you look into more problems, your problem-solving skills, they will get better, trust me. So here we go again. Wait 5 seconds to start the round, and we will place one of the traps when the piggy spawns. Interestingly though, the crouch has appeared again, so interesting. We'll have to look into that a bit more. I'm still a little bit puzzled as to why that's not working. But if we wait for the piggy to spawn, which should be very soon, I'm going to head down to the lobby section down here, and I'm going to let the piggy place trap. And now, if I step in one of these traps, I get stuck. And you can see I've kind of walked into the trap here, and it's... So if I jump into it, I get stuck in it, and that's because the trap is a... And if I just walk on the edge of it, it doesn't look like I'm touching it. It still kills me. Sorry, it still freezes me. That's because the trap is quite big. I think if you make the trap smaller and you set the can collide... In fact, you don't need to make it smaller. You can just set the can collide... Oh, never mind, actually. That's a good point. Let's think about this. So, you could add a small wait here of maybe 0.25 seconds, just to allow the player to walk into the trap a little bit more. And that way, it would look as if they get stuck in the middle of it. They're still touching it, they're just touching an invisible part of the block, which we can't see because it's a mesh. whereas there's a hitbox around it. So if we go in at one of the edges, we'll still be able to touch it. So we'll try this again. Okay, let's try this again. There we go, that looks much better. So just a little delay to allow me to keep walking into the trap before it deletes. Awesome. And if we look at this again, the piggy cannot get stuck because he's got that value inside of him, which tells the script in the bear trap that he is the piggy. So it's not going to trap him, whereas because I'm a contestant, I've not got a piggy value, is going to make me get stuck. And the piggy, if he wants, can use up all of his traps in one go. We'll just let him use them here. And when he gets down to 0, he'll have none left. So the piggy needs to use these traps really wisely. And see, he's down to 0, he can't place anymore. But he can kill me. Okay, brilliant. So, all that is left to do is fix that bug with the Crouch GUI. And we should be good for this episode. In fact, there's actually a hidden bug which I haven't told you about yet, which we will also have a look at fixing in this episode, and that is, even though our Crouch GUI doesn't appear, of course we can still crouch, but if you step in one of the piggy's traps right now, there's a bug that when you get stuck, a quick way to get out of the trap is to crouch down. So I'll show you again. I'll move the piggy out of the way. If you get stuck in the trap, if you crouch, you can get out of it because the crouch is adjusting your walk speed, remember, to slow you down and speed you back up when you press Control. So we're going to have a look in that bug as well. So 2 bugs regarding the crouching to fix. So I'm going to record myself investigating this bug so that it helps teach you some debugging skills. So I don't know at first whether this event is actually being picked up when it gets fired. So let's print toggle crouch fired with visibility, and then I'll pass through the visibility. Visibility. Oh, I've already found the bug. I spelled visibility wrong. If you have a look, it says visibility. So visibility. And oh, actually. No, that can't be right. That can't be right because even though I spelt it wrong, I still updated the crouch value. So that's not the problem fixed. So let's print out again. Toggle crouch picked up with visibility. Dot visibility. I'll set it to be visibility anyway. But we still need to work out why it isn't working. So into test mode, and trust me, we'll get this bug fixed. There's no such thing as an unsolvable bug in my book, because we'll be able to fix it, trust me. You just got to adopt the mentality that you can fix a bug, because I've fixed lots of bugs in my Roblox development career, so it's just about learning. So let's open it up, crouch, let's see if it. Well, we need to firstly work out who's the piggy. Attempt to... Oh, whoops. I haven't fixed the bug, but I've forgotten to set it to a string, because you can't concatenate a bool value with a string. But it appears that visibility is being fired. Sorry, the event is being fired, and it's passing a Boolean value to it, which is going to be either true or false. So if we just test this again, I'm going to skip to when it loads. Okay, let's open up the outputs. Okay, it's appeared for some reason. Well, obviously it should appear, but it's very weird that sometimes it doesn't appear, whereas sometimes it does. Okay, interesting. So I've just launched the game again, and it hasn't fired the event. We can see because it hasn't printed out that it's been picked up. So we know that the problem... is to do with when we are firing it, the event. So let's have a look at that. So it's going to be toggle crouch. Let's go to where we fire it. So when we're looping through all of the contestants, we are toggle crouch fire client v true. So it would appear that it's not getting to this else statement. So let's print out firing toggle crouch for player v.name. And then let's print out v.name outside of this if statement so we can see all of the players that it's looping through. Interesting. Okay, let's try again. Okay, so it hasn't worked again. So let's go into the server and see what it says. So it says player 1. Now player 1 is the Piggy, so it's only printed out player 1 for some reason. So let's have a look at this. So let's go back to game logic. Not game logic. RAN module. No, game logic. My apologies. So let's have a look. So it's printed out player 1, which suggests that player 2 is not in this table for some reason. Let's have a look. So it would suggest that the second player is getting removed. So I'm going to print added player v.name to contestants. I'm going to add them to this contestants table up here. Well, I'm going to print when each player is added. I've got a slight theory, which I won't share with you yet. I will share it in a minute, though, if this works. Okay, I think my theory is correct. So what's happening is the players at the start of the game are being added to this contestants table, okay? But when we get to you can see it only prints out player 1. It's not printing out player 2, who is the actual contestant. So this to me is suggesting that when we are removing we're using table.remove to remove the Piggy out of the table. This will sound very this might be hard for me to explain to you, but if we imagine that in our table here, we have Alvin and we have Nako88, yeah? If, let me think about this for a second. So if the Piggy is AB, what's going to happen is the for loop is starting out looping through all the contestants. So it's going to loop through the first person. And so I is going to be 1. And it's going to work out that AB is the Piggy. So it's going to remove AB from the table. So what it looks like now is this. Nako88, who is the contestant, is the only one left in the table. And because AB has been removed, his index is now 1. So when it then loops around, and you would expect it to move on to Nako88, it doesn't. It just ends out of the for loop. Because it thinks that Nako88 is at index 1. Because he's at index 1 now, well, I would increase by 1. So I think what we need to do to fix this is to remove this part where we fire the toggle crouch, but instead copy and paste this for loop, and instead of this v equals chosen Piggy, we'll change it to not equal to chosen Piggy. And so if for everyone in the contestants, if they are not the Piggy, then we're going to fire the toggle crouch for them, because they they should still be in they're still in the contestants table. It's just that because the way it works, when you remove someone from the table, it shifts along, but the I value will stay the same. So you might miss someone out, which is why the toggle crouch is not firing. But this way, we have a separate for loop. It's going from the start again, and there will no longer be a piggy in there. So it won't remove anyone from the table. It will just start from the beginning again, and it will set the toggle crouch to enabled for everybody. So that should do it. And you can see I had to debug that. There was no error. I had to think logically about how it was working, and I got to the end. Now, if you're a beginner scripter, it's unlikely that you would have found the solution to that problem. It might have took you a couple of hours. But because I'm an experienced coder, I managed to find that bug really quickly and rectify it. So the more coding you do and the more problems and bugs you get, the better you get at solving them. So a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been able to solve that problem as quick as I have done right now. But just keep going. So to recap, we're adding another for loop with this if statement here. Okay, so if v, the player, is not equal to chosen piggy, then we're going to fire the toggle crouch event. Now I hope this works because I haven't actually tested it yet, so let's see. And the thing that led me to believe this was because it was only breaking and not showing the toggle crouch when player 2 was not the piggy. So when player 1 was the piggy, they'd be the first one in the table, I think, and it would be removing them first, which would leave player 2 still in the table, but because the for loop had then moved on and changed I to 2 and realised there wasn't a second element in the table anymore, it just broke out. So let's see here. So player 1 is the piggy, so this wouldn't have... Sorry, player 2 is the piggy, but player 1 would come first anyway, so this wouldn't affect it. But let's keep trying it. And here we go. Player 2 is the non-piggy, player 1 is the piggy, and it's working perfectly. So if you press Control, it goes blue, and when we release it, it goes white. And you can also click. So really, really awesome. We've got the crouching in here. And if we go back to the server, you'll see added player 1 to contestants, added player 2 to contestants, and then it fired the toggle crouch for player 2. Brilliant. So we've just fixed that bug together, and we've now got a working trap system, we've got a working crouch system, and we've got the animations done for them as well. We've also been able to make the players escape from the game as well, which is really, really awesome. Final thing we need to do is fix that bug with the traps, where if you get stuck in a trap, you can crouch and it will change your walk speed. Now, let's have a look and see if we can fix this. So, my solution, proposed solution, is to, when you step in a trap, we'll put a value inside your player called stuck. And then in the crouching script, we can detect if you have that stuck value. And if you do have it, then we won't let you crouch. So, let's see. So in this debounce, just after the debounce equals true, we're going to say local stuck equals instance.new bool value stuck.name equals stuck and stuck.parents equals player. Now, I'm not going to worry about setting its value. We don't need to do that. All that we need to do is just put it in the player so we can see if they have this tag. It's more of a tag than a value, just telling us that they're stuck. So now that we've done that, we can... well, we'll need to delete it afterwards, won't we? We'll need to say player player.stuck :destroy. And that will delete it from their player. In fact, we'll just do if player find first child stuck, then just in case it gets deleted somewhere else for some reason and it's not there, if they leave the game after getting stuck, you know. So that's a good idea actually. We can say if player.character in there as well, just in case they leave when they get stuck. So this will delete it after 5 seconds. And then in the crouching script, which is here, let's just put another if statement in here. If player, so if not, so if they don't have the crouch value, if not player find first child stuck. So we only want this if statement to run the code inside of it if they're not stuck. Yeah, so we'll add another. Let me just look at this. We need to add an extra end. There we go. So if they don't have a stuck value, then we will let them crouch. But if they do have a stuck value, then we will not let them, because they're going to be stuck in that trap. Let's go and try this out. So here I am. I'm going to place a load of traps as the piggy, and I'm going to go and walk into them here. And I get stuck, and I try and crouch, but it's not going to let me. I'm pressing the crouch key because I'm stuck. But as soon as I become out of the trap, it will let me crouch again. There we go. So if we look in the player 2, and I place another trap, watch carefully over here as I step in it. Are you ready? Watch here. So the stuck value has gone into my player. So when I press Control, it sees that I have this stuck value, so it won't let me crouch. But as soon as it gets destroyed, it will let me crouch again. So awesome, we fixed that bug. So now, if the piggy was to go and, let's say for example, he puts a trap here, and then he shuts the door again, and the piggy's chasing me, so I decide to go and escape in here. Oh, I can't go down, I'm stuck. So he can come in here, and he can kill me. So there we go, we seem to have fixed the traps in the game. And at the end of that round, the roles have changed. So player 2, who was the character to begin with, has now become the piggy, whereas the player on the right now has the ability to crouch. But when the person on the left now presses Control, they don't crouch, instead they place the trap. Really, really awesome. So that is pretty much the Piggy game completed in terms of the round. You're able to play now and have a proper game. So, as I said in the last video, publish it by clicking on File and then click Publish to Roblox, and you will be able to, it's gone off my screen, here we go. You'll be able to give it a name, description, and then click on Create. That will then give you a link to the place. If you want to make it set to active so that players can play it, click on Game Settings, and then click on Permissions and set it to Public so that anyone can play it. And then, if you go into your Roblox profile, your Roblox Create page on the Roblox menu at the top, then you'll be able to see your place and you'll be able to go and play it. And you should be able to get a link to it as well from this button here. I think it's only just because we've published it that it's not showing up. But if you do go to your Roblox, here you go to the Create page, click on Games, which is the first tab anyway, and you click on the Start Place, you'll be able to go and play it with your friends. So I'm sure that a lot of people in the comments will be asking, oh, can you make an extra feature for this? Can you make an extra feature to do that? For example, map voting. And the answer is I can't do every single feature of Piggy. You need to realise that. And if you want to make your own features, your own other features that you want to add, then you can learn the basics of Roblox scripting and you can try and make them yourself, because it's just impossible for me to reply to everyone's comments and add every feature that everybody wants me to make. I've tried to make this game as realistic as possible, but we do have to end this series at some point. And I am going to create some extra videos after this of some more features, but this is the main game completed. So just know that I'm unable to make every single feature that you request, but I will try to add on to them as much as I can. I'll keep on supporting this series, but at some point I have to stop them so that I can work on other videos and other projects, if you understand that. But we've made a pretty cool Piggy game. It's given you a great introduction to Roblox Studio and scripting. I recommend now that you go and check out my 23 and counting, we're adding more videos as we go along, 23-part series for those that are new to Roblox development, so you can learn the basics of coding. I'm also going to be working on an advanced series after that as well, so that you'll be able to learn how to make your own games that you want to make, You know, not just games like Piggy, but you can make what you want to create. I've got lots of videos on my channel and lots of other how to make a game series for you to check out. But I will keep adding to this series if I can. As I've said, I've got some features that I do want to think about adding, such as map voting. That's something that you might see coming soon. So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching this series so far. I've been Alvin Blocks, your host and guide. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to click the like button, and you can go to the next episode in the series if it's out by the time you're watching by clicking on the thumbnail in the middle of your screen. There'll be an arrow pointing to it. So I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.